has affected prices across the world. The price of wheat, for example, has increased by 25%. And that is actually having a very, very big global impact. You know, food prices across the world. Of course, we'll be trying to hear from the different places across the world on what exactly is happening where you are at. So don't mind, just join us and be able to explain and hear the experiences of those who are actually living a difficult life. Here in the United Kingdom, I think the situation is really dire. It is hard to imagine that in a very rich country, a very developed country, there are people going to food banks to access food, to be able to access food because they are unable to afford food at this particular moment in time. Families are struggling. Even people who are relatively well off are struggling because what is happening is the bills, electricity, gas, all of these have gone up. They have shot up in ways that are actually very scary. So you would wonder maybe in the developing world, on the African continent, for example, where many, well, several of us come from, what is exactly happening? How are people coping, having come out of difficult situations? We'll be checking in Nigeria, one of Africa's biggest oil producers, well, whether the price of oil has increased, where it comes from, and whether people are able to access it. It's not the first time, of course, you've seen, like in Nigeria, queues for fuel coming up, even in a country that is supposed to be producing, or rather, having oil of its own. We'll also be going to the Gambia. Luckily enough, not every day do you hear from the Gambia, but we'll be hearing the story just in terms of what is happening on the ground. We'll go to Tanzania, inshallah, and hear what the situation is. What is happening? Are governments doing anything to try to actually get into this situation? There's a particular message that I saw that really touched me so much. I actually thought I should just share it with the people now, actually, tonight, in tonight's conversation. It's a very powerful message about someone talking about what is happening from a business perspective. And it was a message that was on Facebook by Eve Zarwango, who says businesses are struggling, failure sucks life out of you, and society will judge you as a weak person who gave up. I thought I was going through tough times, but God, I shouldn't be crying. On a call with a friend in the same business like me last night, they were closing their business. I have looked up to them for growth with the equipment they have, embedded technology, and the passion for their skill. Their biggest problem they have is their first over the last years, is that their government contracts that they do, where government doesn't pay on time on any single contract, and they have to bribe to get payments approved if they get paid. That's another problem. Basically, a huge portion of their profits are eaten up in bribes. The business does 70% government contracts and only 30%, private contracts. I only do 2% of those. Last year alone, three of our biggest suppliers closed down because of loans from banks, but the government was not paying them for the suppliers who had done the supplies over that 1 year. Now, that's just one situation where you think you'd have thought the person is in a business environment and therefore probably not struggling, but businesses are struggling where they are at. It would be very interesting just to hear your side of the story from the side of the world, what exactly is happening in your situation. Isma in the studios, please, if you have that clip ready for us, if you can just paint that picture for those who are joining us, allowing more people to get into the conversation. Remember, if you have any views, you can just text us, send us a message either on Zoom if you're connected to Zoom, or on Instagram, and we'll be sharing and hearing that particular message or reading it out to our viewers. So thank you very much if you've just joined us. We're just kick-starting. The program is Come. Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. It's our global community conversation where no topic is out of bounds. The only thing that we do is we touch every subject with decency. Let's look at the situation in the United Kingdom, where you'd have thought that in a very rich, developed country, the situation should have been slightly different. It isn't. I can't hear any sound for some reason.
I do this every day.
But with predictions, the cost of living crisis is going to get worse. Rising say now not just the next meal parents are worried about.
What is that the people want to kind of not have extra rations at home,
what we've had is that the parents want more food for them, for the children, because they're always worried about what is going to come in next week.
But for some, the fear of not being able to feed their children has already become a reality. Sultana Begum is a single mother on benefits with 2 young children. There have been times, she admits, they've had to go hungry and they wouldn't survive now without the food bank and her family. That sense of foreboding hangs in the air. You don't have to look far to find people who are struggling. We're in Barking in East London, and this is not an isolated town in need.
I can't do this no more.
Deborah is on her own with a teenage daughter and 10-year-old son. She pretty much has no spare money to pay for anything other than food and clothes, let alone family activities.
I just feel awful knowing that I can't do a lot of things apart from the everyday things that they're supposed to do, like go to school and stuff. But I want to have fun with them. I know deep down that they want more from me.
Deborah is using a hot meals service which started just a few weeks ago with 10 people. It's now packed.
We are feeding a lot more people by the day, and our cooker, as you can see, is not commercial size no more. We can't cook.
But even with these handouts, and we can't know for sure, organisers estimate at least half the children are malnourished.
A lot of them, from my experience, I have noticed, were missing out on school simply because they weren't healthy enough. They would get tired in their games, football. They weren't able to run around, and they're just not able to afford enough food.
Everything is eating up money, and even in the local laundrette, where energy prices have pushed up costs, parents tell us of the impact on their children.
You sort of think, I can't afford to wash their clothes.
Yeah, that's true. Before, we used to wash our clothes in about 3 times a week. So now probably we have to make sure you have to wash twice a week.
I can't afford, yeah. All the washing powder, the air conditioner, everything is high.
It all seems relentless, with the youngest in society growing up through the worst cost of living crisis in a generation. Lisa Holland, Sky News, Barking.
You want
Well,
9
we just
million.
heard now, that is one situation in the United Kingdom, and that is in London. This is the capital of the United Kingdom, and you'd have thought probably the situation would have been slightly different, considering this is a rich country, and therefore you'd have not imagined that people could be going through these hardships. We would like to find out from you, wherever you are. You can text us if you cannot join us on Zoom. Just click on the link, or on Instagram, just type your message there. Hi, Dixon, I've just seen you on Instagram. If you've just joined us, we are talking about the rising cost of living across the world, the war in Ukraine, but also the rise in prices across, for fuel, for gas, for electricity, has affected essential goods everywhere, and many people are struggling. We'll be trying to traverse not only the African continent, but also the United States. We'll go to Canada. We'll try to get down to Latin America, just as well to hear what is going on. And because I've got network issues sometimes on the African continent, why don't we just get our people who are already here, maybe to just help us understand what is going on where they are. And we are joined live now from Banjul in the Gambia, that is in West Africa, by Dija Jao, a journalist in West Africa. Dija, thank you very much for joining us. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Dija, how are you? How is Banjul today?
Good evening, Kassim. I'm very happy. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can
Banjul
hear
is
you.
okay. It's just warm these days. Yeah. Good evening, colleagues, and good evening, Kassim. As you read,
Oh, your network is playing up. Oh, Dija looks like she's dropped. But in Nigeria, in Abuja, oh, Dija, you're still there? I was worried that we had lost you. I was just about to go to Abuja, but since you're back, let's try and get you, please. If you can just unmute and go ahead. Your network just played
so
out.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Like you rightly mentioned, cost of living in the Gambia is quite. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Wow.
we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Like you rightly mentioned, the high price cost of living in the Gambia is quite worrying, and the ongoing war in Ukraine has just worsened the situation. Like in the Gambia, our staple food is rice. Before, it used to be $1,500 a bag of rice. So one thing is obvious that, yeah, that is less than $30, but now it has risen to $2,000, almost little over $50.
Yes.
So every household, one thing is obvious, every household has to cook rice every day, as it is our staple food. Majority of Gambians live from hand to mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Others cannot afford rice. So if you cannot afford rice, you go for bread. And Gambia import flour from Ukraine. So the price of bread, a loaf of bread used to be $7. Now it is $10. So the most heartbreaking thing, Kassim, I can tell you is that if you go to restaurants, you meet people outside, mostly mothers with their babies. What they used to ask is, I need money. But now they ask you, I need food. I have my kids here. We haven't have breakfast. We haven't have lunch because we cannot afford it.
Allah.
Family find it very difficult. Yeah, family finds it very difficult to put food on the table. People go outside to bake. They don't look for money. They don't look for any other things, but they want food for their babies.
So when you say food, Dija, is that food that has been left over? You know, like in restaurants, when sometimes some leftover food, people just poor people sometimes stand outside and ask for that, or are they asking that you buy them the food?
You buy them the food because they know when they ask for the money, you're going to give them little over $5. That is half a dollar or a cent. That cannot afford them food. Food is very expensive here in the Gambia. I used to go to this particular restaurant to buy shawarma, and the other day I went there, they said that is $4. Something that used to be little over $1 is now sold at $4. I told them this is very expensive. My family and I can afford it, but the majority of Gambians cannot afford it. You cannot afford rice as your staple food. You have to eat rice every day in the Gambia as it is our staple food. If you cannot afford rice, you go for bread. And bread also has risen. The price of bread has also risen.
Dija, does Gambia grow rice? I mean, it's your staple food, but do you actually grow the rice or do you import it?
We used to grow the rice, but not anymore. You know, Gambia, agriculture used to be a major player, but because of a lot of factors, one of which is climate change, the government has not done anything about that. When they were doing the campaign in 2021, and elections has just passed a few months ago, what people were asking for majority of Gambians were complaining of high cost of living. Go to the issue of rent. The Gambia have a rent act, but it's not being enforced. You have your property, you rent it at any price that you want. Government is not doing anything about that. Transport fare has been increased. So that used to be little over $1, because the dollar is at 56. I understand. Dollar to $1 is 56.
Yes.
Something that used to be a little over $1, but it's now like $2 to $3 because the commercial drivers are also complaining. The fuel has also risen from $45 that used to be $1 to now almost $70. That is little over $1.
Now,
so family finds it difficult,
Gambian,
in fact, to travel to work. Yes.
There is another Gambian who's just joined us via Instagram, and he's a Gambian. He says he's a Gambian who lives in the UK. His name is Omar Bule, and he says, when I arrived in the UK, we used to send £150 for our family upkeep in Gambia, but since last year, we are sending £350, which is barely enough. I think that speaks volumes. Many Gambians do have relatives abroad and therefore expect money to be sent. That must have been affected as a result of this situation.
Of course, when our agriculture collapsed because of climate change and other factors, then remittance was also contributing like 65% of the economy. But those people that are outside, that are supposed to help their families, a developing country like the Gambia also complain. They have a lot of utility bills that they need to pay. So the situation is so worrying, Kassim, I can tell you. If you take breakfast, if you are lucky to have lunch or dinner, you should be thankful. You have families, mothers with their babies. The moment I step out here, I will see mothers waiting outside our office that they need food. They will not ask for any other thing, that I need food. And in fact, they have to carry their babies that I haven't eaten. I haven't taken lunch. My kids are with me. Just the other day, I was from a program because I wanted to get home early. So I have this food that I was given in the program. Then I met this mother at one of the parking lots. It was getting late. It's around 8 p.m. GMT. This woman was with 3 kids. She was complaining that she didn't have dinner. So I have to give them the food that I was having. It is, in fact, it is really heartbreaking. So transport fare is there. You go and fill your gas. Gas that used to be just $2, $100 is now sold at $5. Is now you have to fill your gas at $500. That is around $10.
Now, I've been asking the question, Dija, whether government has done anything. Has government intervened to help with the situation? Maybe
no, they haven't. They haven't. When they were campaigning, Barrow was telling, just when he called his press conference, what Barrow was saying was that he's going to make sure that he addressed the issue of high cost of living, because when he was campaigning, people were complaining that the high cost of living, rent, transport fare, and all of that. So he promised that he's going to address the issue by investing in agriculture, but we haven't seen anything. Gambia used to depend on agriculture for survival. You have groundnut, you have rice, because rice is our staple food. But that area has completely collapsed. So people were depending on remittance. Now, and tourism also, when COVID came, that sector also collapsed.
And
so
the Gambia definitely.
The Gambia imports, we import everything. We don't, nothing is made here. We import everything. Flour for bread is in Ukraine. Then you have oil and rice, because the Gambia depend on rice for survival. It's really heartbreaking, I can tell you.
That is a journalist, Dija Jao, in Banjul in the Gambia, in West Africa, in case you don't know where the Gambia is. One situation, we are sort of trying to look at the global rise in prices. And if you've just joined us, this is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim, Kayira, and tonight we are touching the rising cost of living across the world. We started with the UK situation. Of course, we'll be hearing from many people in the UK on how they are coping, what they've had to cut out of their budget to make sure they can make ends meet. The situation is difficult across the globe, and the war in Ukraine has not helped. The biggest producer of sunflower oil, one of the biggest producers of wheat, one of the biggest producers of gas and oil, though, Russia, involved in this particular crisis at the moment, and that is not helping at all. Dija, thank you very much in the Gambia. Omar Bule says, you are spot on in your explanation. Thank you very much. Why don't we just cross to Kigali now? And here, that is East Central Africa, in Kigali, Rwanda. It's one of the most expensive countries, actually, after Switzerland. That is because just in terms of the living, everything is measured on the weight scale. For a person coming from Rwanda, where we just get our bananas and just lay them on the ground, to get to a situation where you have to put everything on the weighing scale, that is one area. But the government quite often intervenes and makes a difference. We are joined from Kigali, Rwanda by Shukuru. Bwana Shukuru, welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good evening. How is Kigali today?
Kigali is good. The weather is good, and everybody is well.
Oh yes. I think the greeting in Rwanda is
but I'm muted. I am muted.
Bravo.
Yes. Let's talk about the price of food. Natwe turashimira Nyagasani. Bwana Shukuru, it's about the price of commodities in Kigali, in Rwanda in general. How are the prices faring, considering? Let's start with fuel prices, because that has been a global phenomenon for a little bit of time. Hello, Shukuru, are you there?
He's muted.
Oh, yes, he's come back now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
can you hear me?
Were you trying to control the crowd in the background there?
Yes.
All
okay.
Right. Are you not able to bring your video on, because it would be very interesting for people just to see?
Let me check. All right.
Yeah, it would be good for our audiences, especially those at this. Well, we have people who are following.
Can you see me
on Facebook? I'm trying to see if we can see you. Actually, I haven't been able to see you yet. Are you in the dark? All right, that's much better. You look like Al Haji now. You could get away to be a Fulani and get away to be in the Gambia. Right. We're talking about the cost of living. Thank you very much for joining this program tonight. And just to remind our viewers, we are streaming live on YouTube, on Zoom, on Instagram, on Facebook, and that is 75W Radio. If you just look for that on Facebook, or just look for Umma Connect on YouTube and on Zoom, and you'll be able to join us. We presented you with a link, which link should be helping you to sort of connect. Yes, we are back to Kigali, Mr. Shukur. How is the situation just in terms of let's start with the fuel and then the food commodities.
Right. Basically, last month we experienced a rise in prices of fuel from about 1,010 francs to, that is for a petrol, to 1,359 francs.
So that's about 11 pounds, from 11 pounds to 13 pounds, nearly 14 pounds actually. That's quite a huge increase for an ordinary person. Yes.
Exactly. And that is to say, actually, there is a subsidy also for that. If it weren't for a subsidy, then possibly it would be maybe about 2,000 Rwandan francs per liter of petrol. That would be pretty much. But government somehow applied a subsidy. It removed all the taxes involved and put a subsidy on transport and so on and so forth. There are several funds that they use to get money to subsidize on fuel so that it can be affordable. Otherwise, we wouldn't be driving any cars.
That is one good experience we are hearing now about government intervention, where, for example, in the Gambia, Dija was saying, there was no government intervention. And for the people, actually, for the people in this particular program, the way we run this program is we get people to have a conversation. So if you feel like you are disagreeing with someone, just raise your hand and we'll get talking. It's not about me talking down at you. It's about us having a conversation. So if you feel like you have a view on something, you can either put it in the chat room, put it on Instagram, and then we can talk, we can have a conversation around it. Yes, Shukuru, this is why a government intervention actually in this particular situation. How about food prices?
Food prices also started increasing, but for them, certain key commodities like sugar, cooking oil, their prices started to rise sometime back during COVID.
Yes, was there a reason for that?
Yes, possibly because transport was not possible during those times when most countries were under lockdown.
Also, so the impact of COVID now impacted on the prices because goods could not be ferried from where they were supposed to come from to where they were supposed to be.
Absolutely.
How are ordinary Rwandans, how are ordinary Rwandese sort of coping with that situation?
It's not easy, though still the government is trying to subsidize, and it's also trying to control those commodities prices on the market through intensive inspections to see that traders do not hike prices unnecessarily. Yeah, so they have really tried to control, but still, since demand is quite high and the supply is low, of course, the forces of demand and supply somehow overpower the government, but they are trying as much as possible to see that prices don't be exorbitant. For example, if you look at, for example, cooking oil is so far the one that has really hiked in terms of price, over 21% now from last year to this year. 21% of increase has happened. And then sugar about 16%. But we are optimistic that sugar prices will drop because we were informed that countries that export sugar to Rwanda, especially Zambia, they are doing some maintenance, and basically they cannot supply enough to Rwanda.
So Rwanda used to have its own sugar factory in Kabuye, which used to do a bit of supply.
Yes,
so
yes.
Is it inadequate? It's not enough.
It supplies about 3% of
dear.
the demand. Yes. So it's
That's
very,
quite
very,
small.
very low.
Well,
but they were planning to
now. Yeah.
They were planning to set up another sugar plant in Nasho, in Eastern Province.
Yeah.
Possibly to cater for, maybe if it can supply, even if it is 20% or 30%, to complement the one of Kabuye. But I think it's still under construction. Possibly like next year or 2024, it will be commissioned, and certainly sugar prices will drop, and maybe the exporters will also have started supplying us enough.
Right, fantastic. Shukuru, thank you very much.
Then also another key aspect that is going to affect food prices is fertilizer price.
Oh yes, of course.
Fertilizers, we have been importing
the biggest producer of your fertilizers. Yes.
Yes, Russia has been exporting a lot of fertilizers to Rwanda, and because of the war now, we cannot get the fertilizers. But the government informed us that they are looking for alternative sources, where actually they expect to get it cheaper. So possibly by next growing season of October, November, possibly we shall have gotten alternative sources which are cheap. Otherwise, if we wait for Russia and the war doesn't end, then we may have no fertilizer at all. And much as there are stock, there is a huge stock of fertilizer, but certainly farmers will use it and it will get depleted
very quickly.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Shukuru. I'll just try to spread out. Stay there. Do not go anywhere. I think if you have any question for Shukuru regarding the situation in Rwanda, please, you can actually just send us a message in the chat room. We will convey the message and we will have a conversation. If you've just joined us, and many people actually are joining us on Instagram, welcome to Jamil, welcome to Zenaida, welcome to Onesmo, welcome to Heroya Hina, all on Instagram and on Zoom. I can see the numbers are also growing pretty fast. We are streaming live on YouTube as well as on Zoom here where we are live, and we're talking about the rising cost of living across the world. We started hearing from Gambia. If you joined us late, we went to Rwanda. I'd like us now to go to Africa's largest economy, which is Nigeria. The reason I'm doing that is I'm doing a quick marathon just in case the lines drop out as they normally do from the continent. At least we'll have heard what the situation is, and then we can have an overall conversation. But we shall be going to the United States. We shall be going to Canada. We shall be going to Australia. We are all over the place trying to hear from the different people about what is going on. There is a question for Shukuru. We shall have it answered once we've heard from Nigeria. And it is a question from Musa Mgemwa, who says, what's the impact of Ukraine war on flights for Rwanda Air? I think that's the question we'll get to answer. We'll come to you and get that answered, Shukuru. Rwanda Air, has it been affected by the situation in Russia? Now we are with Mr. Owede Agbaje, who is in Nigeria. Greetings, Chief.
Yeah, Chairman, greetings. Good evening.
Are you able to put on your camera at all for the viewers to get a chance to see you?
No, not for now.
All right.
Yes.
Are you hanging from a tree?
I'm actually locked up in my room.
All right. Okay. No problem.
Yes,
I was thinking probably you had to climb a tree to get the right network.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, Nigeria now is Africa's economy, definitely, it's also one of the biggest producers of oil across the continent. what's the situation? And it's also election year, probably. A lot of elections across the continent normally bring a lot of money in terms of bribes, or the economy tends to improve with elections because people get an opportunity to get some money flying around. How is the situation playing out in Nigeria?
Well, like you said, this is the election period. The election comes up by first. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And good evening to my colleagues. Yes, the elections are built for next year, just less than a year away, February 2023. So at the moment, political parties are gearing up for their primaries, in which the candidates will be picked. So that's the situation we are now. The electoral body, INEC, has given them till June 3, on the 3rd of June, for parties to conclude their primaries. Political parties have been putting pressure on the electoral body to postpone or to postpone the deadline, to shift the deadline forward. But the INEC is saying that they are not going back, that the date is firm. So that's where we are. As a result of the elections that are coming up, build up to the primaries and all of that, there has been a mop-up of dollars, basically, to the extent that in the parallel market at the moment, the price of dollar to naira, the exchange rate, it has gone to, the parallel market has gone to 600 naira to a dollar. That's in the parallel market.
How much was it before?
Before now, it used to be like 500 or thereabouts. But as a result of the elections, especially the primary elections, because there are stories flying around that politicians are mopping up cash to bribe delegates that will participate in the various primaries. So that's where we are.
That's quite interesting, because in countries like Uganda, the reverse is happening. With the war in Ukraine, the dollar has lost value, the pound has lost value. You actually have to send a lot more dollars or pounds now back home as remittances to families, because they have lost value. It is interesting to hear that now in Nigeria, the story is slightly different. The dollar has appreciated against the naira.
Okay. Then on the issue of inflation, the National Bureau of Statistics, just some few days ago, released their inflation figures for the month of April. And in that report, the inflation has gone to 16.82%. That was the April figures. This was against the figures released for March. In March, it was 15.92%. And all of this at the moment, this 16.82% for inflation, it has surpassed the projection given by IMF, which placed Nigeria, that in 2022, Nigeria would hit an inflation of 16.1%. Yes.
Now, this is very technical now for the ordinary person, for the normal person. How does that translate to the ordinary person going to, Ikeja market down there in Lagos, or going to the Abuja market? How does that play, just in terms of, how is that affecting? Because inflation, I think for the lay person, it is too much money chasing too few goods. So in terms of how does that translate to the local person, to the ordinary citizen in Abuja or across parts of Nigeria?
Yes, there are even reports, because basically Nigerians are saying that these figures are also conservative if you compare it to what is actually on ground, that the figures are not actually the right figures. These statistics that are being given, that they are not the right figures, because when you go to the market, for instance, what you see will be far, 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 far higher than these official figures that are being given. For instance, the price of gas, prior to this time, 2-3 years ago, the price of gas was sold for 3,000 naira, between 3,000 to 3,500 naira, depending on the place you are in Nigeria. But at the moment, the price of gas has increased to 9,000 naira.
Wow.
You can see the
difference. From 3,000 to 9,000.
Yes, from 3,000 to 9,000 naira for 12.5 kg of gas.
And that would have an impact, of course, on prices in the market.
Yes, of course, to have an impact on prices and everything you can think of. Food as well, to the extent that now we now do what we call it's an old fashion when you hear people talk of 3 square meals. 3 square meals no longer exist because of the high cost of food, for instance. Yes. So people now ration food. You now see situations like people now do what you call 001 or 011 or 100. For instance, 001 means for morning, like the breakfast, you take nothing. Yes, for lunch, you take nothing.
I
then
love
one,
the
which is
Nigerian
dinner.
interpretation of things. So
yes,
001 is you just have dinner. In the morning,
you just have
nothing,
dinner.
lunch, nothing.
Yes. Then 010 means in the breakfast, you have nothing. For lunch, you take your meal. Then for dinner, you take nothing. So you don't hear anybody talk of 111. 111 is archaic.
3 meals.
It's strange, yes.
3 square meals, yes.
Yes.
Okay, and if they talk about 011, then they can have the lunch, they can have the dinner.
Yes.
They can't have the breakfast. You'd have to do one thing. So in terms of overall around Nigerians, where do they stand? Where did you say they stand? Is it on 001 or 011 or 101?
Yes, it depends. It depends. There are some people who can't do without breakfast. Some maybe for health reason, or some who just feel like for breakfast they can't do without breakfast. For those people, one will always be there. That is, they must always take breakfast. Then there are some who think who can actually skip breakfast. Yes, who can skip breakfast and also skip lunch and now take dinner. So it depends on where your system can carry. If you think your system can carry you to take 011 or 001, you go for it. There's no hard and fixed rule about the type of food or the ration that you will follow. But the key message is that it is strange now. It is now become what's the right word to use now? It is now something that has to do with somebody who has come of age or somebody who has made it in life. Talking of eating 3 square meals. 3 square meal is no longer there. It's no longer there. Yes. Then for you said something about the issue of government, how the government is handling the situation. Yes, the intervention. Yes, the intervention of the government. For instance, the subsidy regime is still there. It's still being sustained by the government, even though they passed the Petroleum Industry Act. The Petroleum Industry Act states that actually scraps the issue of subsidy.
All right.
And it scraps the issue of subsidy. So it has been passed and signed into law by Mr. President. But as a result of the elections that are coming, what it means when the government scraps subsidy and how it will affect the chances of that government taking over, continue to reign in power. It will affect the chances of that government, of the party. So the political implications it will have of removing subsidies. So the government for now has said the subsidy regime will continue until after the next government. So at the moment,
to understand clearly, when you talk about the subsidy regime, is it just for the fuel or the oil sector, or is it even for other agricultural products?
It is basically for fuel.
All right.
Basically, yes, it is basically for fuel.
But fuel is
at the moment, yes, and at the moment in the 2022 budget, the amended budget that was passed just some months ago, the government will spend 4 trillion naira for fuel subsidy alone. Yes, fuel subsidy, spend 4 trillion naira. Then there's also an intervention from the House of Representatives because the airline operators just a week ago, they threatened to go on strike. So there was intervention by the the lower house, that is the House of Representatives. So they've promised, because one of their reasons for the strike was that aviation fuel has gone to 700 naira per liter for aviation fuel. So the intervention by the House of Representatives, they promised that within the next 3 months, they will give them a subsidy for aviation fuel, which is what those in the sectors have been crying for before now. So they promised that they will give them 3 months supply of fuel. So instead of 700 naira per liter, they will now be buying it for 400 naira per liter. That's also the intervention of the government from that area. Yes.
Owede, thank you very, very much. I think that's the picture from Nigeria. In case you forgot everything else that Owede has said, if it was too technical, at least you remember the theory, which is either 000, which is no food at all. If it is 010, then it is no breakfast, there is lunch, no dinner. If it is 111, that is 3 square meals. So they have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Or if it is 001, so no breakfast, no lunch, but at least there is supper. There is supper or dinner for the families. If you couldn't remember anything, at least if you can just remember that, Nigerians will always amaze. Thank you very much always for that. And just to remind you, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we are live on 75 W Radio. We are live on Uma Connect. We are streaming live on YouTube. We are on Zoom, and we are on Instagram and Facebook, where conversations are taking place and continuing. Let's go to Tanzania. And the reason I asked the viewers tonight is that I'm going to the people on the African continent just in case the network decides to misbehave. At least we know we've heard from the situation that is there. For those who have just joined us, we began in the Gambia with journalist DJ Jao, who was explaining the situation in the Gambia. No government intervention, unfortunately, so far. Staple food being rice. Everybody wants to get rice on the table, but many families are struggling. Some have actually resorted to begging. In Nigeria, Owede Advisaleke, also a journalist in Nigeria, was painting a picture. At least there is some government intervention in Nigeria. At least with the fuel subsidy, they are able to sort of come in and try to control. But even there, the price of fuel grew from 3,000 naira to 5,000 naira. That is quite something. I mean, that's really, really big for an oil-producing country on the continent. In Kigali, we had Shukuru Rwanda who came on to talk about the prices. Of course, prices have been rising, especially for sugar, for cooking oil, and wheat. And also, but there, at least the government has also come in to intervene through especially the oil subsidies. The government comes in to subsidize, and through managing and controlling reserves, the fuel reserves, it has meant that the fluctuation of prices does not happen so much in Rwanda. So just in case the network goes off, let's run to Tanzania, at least in the neighbor to Rwanda, and hear what the situation is. And there we are being joined by Bwana Walter Silas. Bwana Walter, karibu sana, habari za jioni. Hello, Walter. Hello, Walter, you can unmute yourself, please. If you can just click on the button and unmute yourself. Yes, Bwana Walter, habari za jioni. Hello, Walter, I can see you are unmuted, but I can't hear you. Hello, Walter, are you there? I saw you unmuting and then suddenly just went, oh, no, yeah, I can actually see you, but you have muted yourself again now. Unaweza ku unmute, Walter. Okay, hello, Walter.
Oh, hello.
Yes, greetings, good evening.
Good evening to you.
How are you today? Yes, thanks very much for joining us on Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Tanzania, I mean, it's the biggest East African country. What's the situation? How maisha yako namna gani? How are people coping with the situation? Any fuel rises? Any food price rises?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Fuel has risen a lot, especially in the recent days. And life in general has risen. I was speaking to someone that was getting their opinion on the inflation, and they were telling me generally life has doubled in terms of cost. So across the table, all the essentials have increased in price. and some very simple things that we used to take for granted are now coming at a cost. And just my opinion, because I'm just as a young guy living without a family, it has really made me consider and reconsider other things that I hadn't taken into account when I heard the war in Ukraine. So you see, there's say taking a border, a border like the motorbike.
Yes.
Maybe it was 1,000. That was very standard, and it was like that for a long time. And now it changes. It kind of changes everything, how you transport to work. Getting a plate of food from a food vendor or someone, you used to be around 1,500 or 2,000, and now it goes up all the way up 1,000 because the cooking oil is expensive, and the tomatoes are expensive, fuel is expensive. So with all the things that come, building materials is expensive. Cement right now is very expensive. So, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who is actually a doctor, and he says even the people coming to the hospital has reduced. And I was trying to ask her what's going on, and she was like, I think most people don't have the health insurance. They were expecting to pay cash, and now they've just stopped coming because they don't have enough money, and the way things are, because of the way things are right now. So it's
Walter, Owede in Nigeria has just corrected me. He said the price of fuel in Nigeria is 165 naira per liter. I would have wished to know, Owede, what the price was before it got to that, and I'll just correct that. Thank you very much, Owede. So, Walter, you spoke about, as a young man who doesn't have a family, looking at the changing dynamics, the increase in prices, and so on. You said it has made you, and I'm quoting you, it has made you reconsider certain things. I hope it does not include postponing marriage. It might be that you're looking at the expenses and you're thinking.
For sure. I mean, it is factored in, but of course, depends with the shared income and everything that comes with that. But yeah, it really does make you consider a lot of things, especially with that, because I'm living with other people here, and actually, I just came from one of my roommates' place, and they were having ugali and milk, milk that has been, So they were telling me usually on these kind of days here on Tuesday, we'd have chips and eggs, chips and you call it.
So from chips and eggs to ugali.
To ugali. Yeah, that's a very, very sharp decline in a very short period of time. So that just shows how much. And they were telling me we're having this several times a week right now, So it's just the way things are, and it has been really affected by that. And unfortunately, the amount that people earn, like in salaries, it doesn't really match the rate of inflation. Like in Tanzania, we haven't had a pay rise in about, I don't know, at least 4 years. We had a pay rise this May 1st, the president announced, but before then, it had been like 4 years without a pay rise, and inflation has been slowly inching up, but right now it kind of exploded, and the pay rise just doesn't match the level of inflation that we're experiencing. So,
you see, Walter, I was actually looking at our own situation here in the UK, because I was looking at the gas. Gas has gone up, fuel has gone up. I mean, you look like for an Uber driver, normally he's dependent on his car, he's self-employed. It's the amount of fuel they put in, then they will be able to look at the amount of money that they're going to get from the trips. But now fuel has gone up. You're spending much more money to sort of fill your tank. But the price of Uber has not gone up to reflect this change. In other words, now you are actually spending more to get less. You are still getting what you are getting, but at the same time, you are spending more in fuel. My full tank now would be about 48 pounds. Right now, it is on 62 pounds. So from 48 to 62, you can imagine if that was an Uber driver whose livelihood is dependent, on dropping passengers, you're actually adding almost 12 pounds to your expenditure. but they're not getting that back in terms of the travel of the passengers. And then if people are going to start reconsidering that you are saying, like you're saying, some might decide to start cycling or walking where they would have taken a taxi. And that now still affects now the Uber driver, the taxi driver in that particular sense. Of course, now it is pushing us many to sort of reconsider a lot of things. In home, you just come in, you put in gas, especially for the people who are the low income earners. Because now as a low income earner, you will be buying pay as you go. You are not paying per month to be able to sort of sustain that. And that means now the amount of money you're putting on, £10 a week, now has grown to about 25 to nearly £30 a week. And this is called summertime spring. It's almost summer. So you can imagine if winter is going to come at this particular rate, there's going to be a lot of struggling for people. Thank you very much, Walter. Just one question regarding the government intervention. Has government done anything then to try to curb down on this? You've just mentioned one with the president announcing sort of an increment to people's salaries in April. But other than that, has there been any government intervention to try to calm the situation as it is?
Yes, and just to add a little bit more what you said at the end with regarding like people who are in the transport business. Actually, there was the people who run the public transport sort of they kind of stopped working. They have this union where they basically told the government that on this particular day we will stop working because we cannot operate on these prices. And usually the way things are done with the government is that the government allocates the basic prices of all transportation. Right. And that takes a while. Basically, it takes about 2 weeks to process and do it. And the drivers union or whatever had given the government a very short a union and say, okay, on this particular day we'll just stop working because it's not working for us. And the government sort of went around it and it solved it. They basically allowed them to increase the prices. So yeah, transport prices has gone up in order to maintain. But back to your question of what the government has done, the prime minister, actually not the prime minister, the president herself held an emergency meeting with the prime minister and the minister of energy and the minister of like the economy minister and everything, the finance minister, to try and address the situation. So there may be changes coming down the line, especially with to remove some of the taxes involved with importation of fuels. So far, there hasn't been as much change. We haven't seen it. It's just the normal fluctuation that's going on, which is very minimal at least. But we are yet to see the actual government intervention. But there's hope, given that they have taken time to address it. So something that is hopefully in the works and will soon get to.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. And a very fantastic line from Tanzania, Walter Silas. Thank you very much. Stay with us if you can. Let's try and spread out the conversation. This is Come. Let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira. It is now 5 minutes to 9 o'clock London time. That will be about 5 minutes to midnight, I think. No, to 11 o'clock, I think, in Tanzania. I've seen Abdallah here. Mr. Abdallah, you've been there with your big hat, unmistakable by all means. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Jeba Kosebu.
Karisebu nawe jebali. Oliruddawa, where are you?
In Texas.
You are in Texas. Oh, that's in the United States of America. That's why oh, now I can tell the cowboy hat. I should have told myself that very quickly.
It's too hot outside here. Around 90.
How is life there? How are you coping with the price? And just before I come to you to explain, just to correct, because already in Nigeria had corrected, I think the price rise still is quite high. It came, price was 87 naira back in 2015. It is at 165 naira at the moment. That is quite a steep increase. Now, Abdallah, go ahead, please. What is the situation in Texas? How is it?
It's getting complicated. I'm a transporter. I own a truck.
Yes.
But then, before, the price of diesel was around $2.90.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's between $5 to $6 a gallon.
Wow. Repeat that. Before it was how much?
Around $2.90.
$2.90, yes. And now it is?
Between $5 and $6.
Wow. That's almost double the price. That's almost 100% increase, yes.
Like we transporters are no longer making money. That's why you see me sitting at home.
Yes.
I've packed my trucks now almost 2 weeks.
Wow.
Because if I go there out, I don't make money. And the brokers are not increasing the money for the freight.
Yes.
The same thing.
Has the state government done anything? The governor hasn't come to pronounce themselves on the ongoing situation.
They are doing nothing, man. Biden promised that he's gonna touch into the reserve so that the fuel can go down. The time the war started in Ukraine.
Yes.
But nothing has changed. In fact, there are some truckers who are driving to Washington to protest. Let me give you an example of that, like the essential commodities, like a gallon of milk, we used to buy $2. Today it's $4.50.
Wow.
We used to buy bread, it was around $2.50. Today it's $4. In fact, most people are crying.
Now you said, Abdallah, that you have been packed for the last 2 weeks. Of course, as a self-employed person, you need to be making money. How are you surviving then? How are you being able to pay for this increased livelihood?
I'm using my savings. Yeah.
But the problem is, how long can you use the savings? I mean, if the time continues, you've been out of work for 2 weeks and you're already pushing into your savings basket.
Yeah. In fact, I keep checking on the board. If I can come across a freight that is paying, then I'll be off to go.
As a family, then, how have you adjusted yourselves to this new reality? What are you doing differently from what you used to do before this to sort of come or deal with the situation?
No, I used to work for a certain company because I'm an IT. But I retired from that job. I was tired of sitting in the office.
No, I was meaning in your home, given the circumstances, the change of circumstances, 2 weeks, no work, you are entering into your savings. Have you had to cut your budget in any way? Is there a bread that is sitting on the table? What has gone off the menu, at least for now?
I'm no longer eating bread.
Well, Museveni would say eat cassava, and then he would be happy with that. If there is cassava in Texas.
I used to have 3 meals. Now I take 2 meals.
Yes.
That's breakfast and supper. Yeah.
Lunch, you just pretend it doesn't exist.
No, I used to take fruits. I'm no longer buy fruits.
You have a wife and children?
My kids are grown up.
All right. Okay.
My wife is working and my kids are working too.
Ah, right. Okay, yeah, but so in terms of the home budget now.
Yeah. I think you don't remember me in Rwanda.
You've changed. You must have changed so much. I can't remember.
Yeah. your mom used to be my friend at the time you had a restaurant in Untitled.
Untitled, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You know,
that time you were still a kid.
Well, I'm too old now, as you can see, with an open roof, definitely.
I know.
So, as a family, what are you thinking about doing now in case this situation doesn't change? Because
if they're promising other things, it will be better.
Yes.
That's what they are saying.
Okay. That's interesting to hear. Thank you very much, Abdallah. Any parting words, any words of advice just regarding the situation now, how we should cope, what we should do to cope?
No, the only advice is just keeping praying to Allah. Maybe things are going to come down.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much.
That's the hope we have from God.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, Abdallah. Okay, let's stay in the United States of America and let's go to Haji Abe Kawesa. Thank you very much, Abdallah, in Texas. I'd like to find out where Haji Abe Kawesa is in the United States. Haji Abe, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for joining us. Where are you in the United States?
Boston.
You're in Boston. Yes, Massachusetts.
Yes, that one.
Ask a person from Barara to say that, and you'll get interesting pronunciation. That's not the subject of the day. How are you coping? I mean, we've just heard from Texas, fuel has gone from 2 cents, it's gone already to $4. No, $2 to $4 to $4.50. I just spoke to you as you are just by the gas station. Actually, you took a very interesting photo of the gas station with the prices. Tell us about the prices where you are.
Well, at the moment, it's ridiculous. I remember there is a time probably about probably 4 or something years ago. Gas went up, gas as in fuel, went up from about $1 something into $2, and people were making noise. It was ridiculous. I remember in my SUV, I've always like maybe putting like 55 if it's like close to empty. Say if at all I'm on a quarter tank. Today, run about the same thing. I'm on a quarter tank, and I had to fuel up about $83, and that's never happened before.
Yep.
So
that's $33 more. That's almost more than 75% increment on that.
Yes. So it's not getting any better because of course especially going into summer and holidays coming up, definitely there's no travel, and definitely prices are going to go up even much higher. So it's a tricky situation, but it's what it is.
Has that affected how much money you send back home? I think as people living in the diaspora, that's one element that you can't actually forget. And if there are those of you watching us from Uganda, following the conversation from Africa, it's not just actually Uganda, from Tanzania, from Gambia, and you don't see money flowing to you as it used to, then you should know what we are putting up with. The balance of $33 that would have remained on $100 to be sent now is going to fill up his quarter tank. Yes, so in terms of your remittances, that must have been affected.
Yeah, in a way, definitely. Of course, you'll feel the hit, but then it all comes down to why you're sending money home. There are certain things whereby it's inevitable. If at all, say you have to look after a parent, definitely you're not going to cut back on that. You're still going to have to do your part. For at least for as long as you are able to, in terms of you can still get something to send. But definitely you kind of pull back on certain things, like where maybe sometimes you would perhaps just send money to anybody who says, what, the situation is bad, and you just send easily. Yes, you will still have to, because, well, of course, in Islam, Sadaqah doesn't decrease somebody's wealth, but I guess how much you send definitely is affected. Yes. If at all maybe you are comfortable before, if somebody is in need, you just get maybe a $30, which is probably 100 and something K. Right now you might have to scale back and probably send 20, 25, and not as often as you used to, but you still have to.
Let's break it in terms of your home budget now. When you're shopping now, are you still shopping the things that you are shopping, or have you had to cut back on a few things? And where have you cut?
To be honest, when it comes to shopping food items or household items, this one person who never has had to look at the prices. In most cases, I don't even know the price of I say a gallon of milk. I usually pick up maybe at the time when I go into a store. Yeah. If I told there are two types, I would probably choose one that is cheaper, but I never really factor in as how much this costs. Maybe because it's I never use cash, be it home or here. Home in Uganda, usually, somehow, as long as I go somewhere where there is I'm able to use a card, I do. So in terms of shopping, really nothing has changed. I still at least buy the things that I've always bought, and in case I need them.
I look at that. The ladies must be laughing. I doubt if there is any lady who would go into a shop and just buy without checking the price. They never do that. Yeah.
If it comes to apparel and clothes, shoes, definitely I look at the prices. But when it comes to food, it's something that I've never actually had to do. I usually buy, and that's how it has always been. So maybe in that particular case, of course, I hear people that things have gone up. Things have gone up. I know people are struggling. Alhamdulillah, I haven't got into that part, but yeah, definitely, people are feeling the heat, and I see any better. Like I said, these prices are going, up by the day. Where you would probably have to spend $100 before, and you come up with a bunch of groceries. These days, $100 maybe doesn't give you as much.
Yeah.
And yes, people maybe have had to scale down on certain things like what used to be maybe basic bread, or now they cannot buy as much as they used to.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Haji Kawesa. Maybe talk to some ladies. Actually, the ladies have been very quiet. I think we've had so many male voices here, and the conversation is still going on. It's let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira. It is just 8 minutes now past 9 o'clock in London. Shadia, I was just trying to get a lady's voice, hearing, Haji Kawesa saying for the things that he just goes for, the bread, the sugar, he doesn't check the price, he just picks up. What is your own situation, Shadia? Hello, Shadia, can you unmute yourself, please? Hello, Shadia, are you there? Okay, I'll go to the United Kingdom and come to Nilfa Kasuja. Oh, Shadia says, I'm sorry, I can't talk. I imagine probably you're at work, but following the conversation. Thank you for being there. Nilfa, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello, Sister Nifa, are you there?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Beginning to get worried. When you hear 2 or 3 people, no response, you start worrying in a conversation that is supposed to be.
I was praying.
Oh, you were praying. Okay, thank you very much. Apologies about that. Yes, we've just been hearing from. Let's start from where Haji Kawesa in the United States was saying when he goes shopping, he doesn't actually check the prices. He just pays, and he's done that. And I was saying ladies almost never do that.
No, we don't. We really shop around. That's why I think men don't want to go shopping with us, because we look for the deals.
No, as a man, when I go into a shop, I go with my mind set on what I want. I don't even want to look on the sides. Go there, pick it, pay it, and just go out. So, but the ladies would do a bit of shopping. So, how has the situation been for you? Any price changes that you've noticed, or you haven't felt the pinch?
Yes, there's a lot of price changes. We are now just running into you just go to supermarket to supermarket. What you find cheaper in that supermarket, you might find it expensive in the other supermarket. So you go to that supermarket to get that. So it's really hard. That's what I'll say. It's really hard. We're seeing the differences. You can actually see the differences here as well. You actually go in some supermarkets and they're empty as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there
have been supply problems because some of the things come from Eastern Europe countries closer to Ukraine, and the impact.
And that has really affected us.
Many people are sort of stocking again, not toilet papers as it happened with COVID, but people are stocking up on other foodstuffs that can last longer just because they don't know what is happening.
Yeah, that is very true. It's affected. I'm seeing it even in hospital as well. So we're also having issues with supplies in hospital when it comes to drugs as well. So this thing has really affected the whole economy. It's not only the cost of living, but it's affected the whole economy.
Yeah. And how are the hospitals then coping? I mean, you talk about seeing supplies sort of going down in one way or another. How are the hospitals mitigating that? Are there people who have had to be pushed back home because they can't afford that, or?
Not being pushed back home, but we're trying to rationale, especially when it comes to drugs. So we sometimes ask patients to come in with their own medication sometimes now. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're doing.
Right. DHM was saying sending monetary support to people back home is really worrying, but pertinent. How are we going to get people to manage their appetites or greed at times? How do you respond to that, Nilfa? I'll get DHM to give us his own view on that. How people back home, the demands, I mean, if they've been receiving.
Yeah, their demands are high, but you have to think of them as well. So I thank God, I thank Allah, I have a job. I'm working. So I have had to cut my costs, obviously, what I'm doing, but I have to support people back home. I've got my mothers, I've got my brothers as well. So you tend to prioritize now, because with them, they don't have anything. I am working and I know I can at least get bread on my table, but they will not have anything. So I have to still keep up with their upkeep.
Yeah, but
prioritize
keeping
how
up
much
with the upkeep by cutting your own. So where are you cutting? What
in
exactly are you cutting?
food store and shopping, clothes and stuff like that.
So
and
last
things
year's
like with the
clothes are
kids
still going
going
to
out,
find
you
their
sort
way.
of like reduce everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nilfa. Yes, I'll
Thank you,
just cross to Farida Ntege. Farida, you are there. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, Farida. You've been listening into the conversation, and those on Instagram, I can see Mama Stino, who has just joined us. I see Arif Nurali. I think that is one is in Mogadishu. SRK Kijoji and Andre Ndushimirimana. Andre, turakwishimiye cyane, karibu mu kiganiro cyacu. Farida Ntege, you are there? If you can unmute yourself, please. Or are you at work, unable to speak? I can cross over to Hafsa Bireke and just get a feel. Again, we are sort of gauging the mood, the rising cost of living. How are you coping? What have you been able to do? In some instances, I remember in the United States, even in the United Kingdom, the governments intervened during COVID. Now that we have this financial crisis that seems to be hitting all corners, I mean, with fuel prices going up, with food prices, supply issues coming in, you're almost hoping that the government might come in with a plan to sort of help. The government seems to have been trying to bridge and block the hole that was brought in and left by COVID. Now, all of a sudden, we are asking the governments for more. Hafsa, you're there. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, Hafsa. Hello, Hafsa, are you there? Let me go to Aisha. See a lot of silence. Hello, Aisha. Aisha, can you unmute yourself, please?
Which Aisha?
There is an Aisha, not because the one I'm seeing is not okay. Well, I've got you. But I tell you, there was another Aisha, but since I got you, I got you. How are you coping with the economic situation? Are you well? Do you have enough money now? You're not bothered by what is going on, or have you had to cut on certain things?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you today?
I'm good, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
To be honest,
about the cost of living rising.
We are struggling a lot in each corner because everything is going high. Fuel, food-wise, clothes, and the quality is not good. We are affected by the exiting from the EU. And then there's a lot that's going on, and the pound is not on our side towards Uganda. Like, we used to send 100 quid and you were like, oh, that's enough for upkeep for but now you have to cut lots of stuff, and yet you have a big family, and then home it's a big family, but alhamdulillah we can manage we're trying to manage like in all corners.
The feeling is that we always live on hope that the situation would change, but this one seems to be getting deeper and deeper, almost worse than it has been. People are not yet losing jobs. In fact, today, something happened that hasn't happened over the last 30 years in the United Kingdom. They've announced that there are more jobs than there are job seekers in the UK. So basically, there are more jobs chasing too few people. There is a whole demand that for the last 30 years, this has never happened. Today, that was announced officially. So there are more jobs, and therefore there will be need now to fill in these jobs, but they can't find qualified people or willing people to be able to do the jobs, and that is definitely something. So for those people who have jobs, we are saying alhamdulillah, but it just means you have to squeeze. But how far can you squeeze though, Aisha? Because it doesn't seem to be getting any better. For me, I was actually worried. I would like to hear from Mrs. Kayira. who handles the finances. I don't look there. I just place and forget. But you look at things like gas, and you see the amount that is grown from just £10. Now,
all the bills are so high, first of all. And then yourself, you can't look after yourself anymore. Like you can't buy lipstick, you have to keep with one instead of having like 3. Then you can't buy stuff for the kids. Like you can't afford buying a pair for them like every after 3 months. It's now 1 pair for a term, or 1 pair for as long as they have to live with them, you know. And they grow up and they grow up in everything, like clothes, shoes. You know, we're struggling a lot, but what can we do? We just have to hope, and we have to be patient, and then we have to calm down, because I normally am lucky enough, all of them go to school, so we only have 1 meal in the evening, which is fine. Not that we can't afford the second meal, but I mean, unfortunately, they're always at school, so when they come back, they have a big meal, which is fine, alhamdulillah. And yeah, we're struggling, but I mean, I pray for those who can't really, who are really desperate, are looking food for in the banks. May Allah provide for them.
Yes, I've seen people going to food banks, and it's one of the things that I would pray to God never to find myself having to go to a food bank. But by the time people go
It's
there,
not there though. You know, shops used to have lots of food and it would flood all over there. But now when you look there, there's less, because people are picking it more regularly than before. Before they never used to, but now, I mean, you find sometimes they're even saying, "Oh, people can donate. People should donate." You know, which is a bit, is putting us back. Even transport wise, like deliveries, if you're buying something from EU, bring to UK, it's very bad. It's too bad. They're almost taxing us. They're almost being like Ugandans taxing us, because I normally buy some stuff in some countries, and I've found out that it's very expensive now, shipping it to here, because that's the only complaint, that it's expensive. And if you want to bring it by vans, like e.g., like let's say from Germany, you can't. Most of the companies that used to drive here have stopped, because they say there's a lot of conflicts on the borders. So it's really affecting us so badly. I can't hear you.
I'd muted myself. I noticed I was muting myself to cough, and I didn't unmute. I was just saying thank you very much to you. Let's try just to gauge the mood elsewhere. I can see a hand up by DHM. And spoken about sending money home. Thank you very much, Aisha. Well, we don't know how far we shall be able to squeeze, and how far we know what we'll need to cut out and what we can't cut out. However, Aisha, you say there are particular things in life that you've sort of reduced doing on. I've realized something about life. Wallahi, lately I eat my money. Because you die and you leave it, and you don't even enjoy it, thinking you are keeping it so much. You don't even enjoy it. You leave it for people to fight for. I am eating my money, the best that I can, alhamdulillah. But whatever needs to be given out, I do my best as well to give it out. DHM, welcome to the conversation.
But there's one.
Looks like you're hurting yourself, Aisha, by not eating. I'm eating my money.
I'm not denying that.
All right. Okay. DHM, please. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, DHM. And I just suddenly
myself. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I just thought, I really.
Your name, please.
My name is Deborah.
Oh, hi, Deborah. Yeah, I was saying DHM. And where are you? Are you in London?
I am in the UK.
In the UK, right? Yes. Good to have you in the conversation. I'm sure you've been listening into the conversation, and yes, something was itching you.
Yes, I have. Yeah, no. Well, I just wanted really to, because I wanted to get a slightly better understanding of how we can manage. I mean, my question was how to manage, because, well, if I can elaborate, my worry at the moment, my parents are in Uganda, and they have been taken care of quite well for quite some time, for all this time, even during COVID when things were difficult. But now with the rise of the cost of living in Uganda, for instance, everything is doubling in prices. My parents live in a place where they're so used to sharing whatever they get with others. But now it's going to become very, very difficult. And they're also at an age where they're easily manipulatable.
Yes.
So those are my worries at the moment. Much as I'm kind of worrying about the cost of living in the UK, I'm more worried about what's going on in a place where there are no regulations.
And Deborah, it would look rather weird. It would look very bizarre for a family, for an old couple that has been sharing everything that they receive, suddenly to start hoarding. And yet that's almost what the circumstances now should be calling for. Is that reduction or just total hoarding?
And how do I have that conversation with them? You know, so those are the questions that I sort of have in my mind at the moment.
Why don't we put that conversation to the audience here? Because I think that's what we do. We come here, we talk about it, because probably we can find ways around it. But sometimes with parents, especially in places that we are not, it might be difficult to sort of determine, you know, like telling them now you can't share the sugar or the cooking oil because they have become suddenly scarce. And they've done that for the last 10, 15 years since their daughter or son went abroad, and they can actually celebrate yaziweereza katuzirieko.
Aina abana Bulaya. Abana
Bulaya.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
That's a question, Deborah, that we should, I think, flag around. I see a hand from Shafiq Warusimbi. Jawan was saying we have had the same chat with many parents and must put a pause on kids' activities like swimming. Now you can actually see now the impact is already immediately coming to happen. If you start putting off things like swimming, and these are the extracurricular activities that actually keep our kids, well, not only fit, but also in a lot of ways, you know, more active and out of trouble if they have these activities. If you're going to start now cutting down on things like, you know, the swimming and so on, that can actually, you know, like have a lot of impact. We have had the same chat with many parents and must put a pause on kids' activities like swimming, monthly subscriptions, you know, like now you might actually end up not having your Netflix or Sky subscription on and other companies are available as well. Private tuition, limited day dates, you know, for kids, this business of birthdays and going to McDonald's and, you know, feeding 10, 15 kids, all these things now might start suffering. And that is one area where you start, those are the easy cuts. You look there and you just tell the kids, the situation is difficult, you know, we have to cut out. But also in homes now, part of the things that have been difficult is talking to families, you know, to children, for example, to tell them there are simple things with bills, electricity, and gas. If you are not in a particular bedroom, please switch off the light. And that becomes now a sort of a method that you put across. It is communicated in ways that are not just commanding, but creating sense within the home to sort of say, we are, you know, having a difficult situation. Let's make sure now we can cut on the usage of certain things, and that's the only way we can save money to be able to do some stuff. Shafiq, your hand has been up, and Deborah, I might just bring you back into the conversation, but let's hear what Shafiq has.
Hello,
Shafiq, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Congratulations first for your being elected as the president of the youth. And now, as the youth, looking at what is happening around now, let's start from there.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to thank you, the Sheikh, Dad, Elder. I don't know how to thank you because the topic sometimes you bring, sometimes I'm off online and I don't pick it up, but the topic you bring, if everyone sits down and we start thinking, and it's weird, you hear them every time when everyone who's driving and listen to LBC. These are the topics they bang on every day at the moment for nearly ever since the
Ukrainian crisis started. Yes, you just muted yourself there.
I think our community, we don't pick it up. We don't give it time. One time I was talking to my brother, I'm like, but you see what is going on? Like everything has increased, but our pay hasn't gone up. You go right now to Tesco, you spend £100, but it's like you haven't done any shopping. The things you used to do like £50 and you feel like, I've done a bit of shopping. Now it's nothing. and the salary at work is not increasing. So it has brought up in terms of like, we start to talk, it has kind of like created a bit of stress, depression, because you're like, how can I find a way to, to overcome? Because I used to be, for example, I used to take my wife outside or on a date on certain occasion, but now I can't, and I'm struggling, but I can't talk because I think I need to do it. Yeah, on the side, I'm really struggling.
Does she understand that though, Shafiq?
Sometimes it's understand, but yes, she understands. She understands that. But also on my side, sometimes now I need to put in more hours to work, which sometimes cuts me off from my family and spend a bit of do a lot of stuff with my family because I've got to put in work so that I try to get the ends meet. One thing I would like to thank my family. We've been together ever since our dad or my dad brought us here, and he has managed to keep us together. That however things are hard, don't feel lonely. Come back home. Do you understand? Don't feel like you've got to be alone. Because now a lot of people, I've got people who they're paying mortgages, but they're coming crying to me. They're like, Shafiq, bro, we're losing money. We're going back to our parents' house. We can't afford the mortgages. Our mortgages are being taken. Do you understand? And all that pressure that, imagine you've grown up thinking that I've got my mortgage, but things have gone the other way around. It has caused.
And Shafiq, yeah. This is despite the fact that people still have jobs. The cost of living has gone so high that even with a job, the money has not actually flexed. And one of the issues I raised earlier in the day was, is it time that we start having a conversation with our bosses to push them to increase our salaries? Probably. And where are they getting the money anyway? Because they would be saying the same thing.
But the bosses are saying that they can't get the money. Every boss you approach, they tell you that, can't you see what's going on? Can't you use yourself? Can't you see what's going on? It's really hard time. But as a community, I don't know what we're gonna come up with kind of ways so that, because I'm from a generation where I've seen it all, and I've got that mentality that however tough it gets, you keep going.
Yeah.
But I feel sorry for my brother who was born here and he didn't get the chance of facing that. In a week, I'm going to be surviving on posho and groundnuts. And my kids, for example, because of the lifestyle they're growing up and what I've shown them and how I'm going to teach them that, you know what, now things are hard. We have to go the hard way. So I don't know how we're going to come up with ways within our community to kind of promote this in terms of and create this awareness, because I think it's something which is missing and it needs attention because it's affecting all of us.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Definitely, Shafiq. Thank you very, very much. Just to say, for those who have just joined us on Instagram, I see the numbers building up there. All the way from Australia, I've seen Honey Eve, and it's actually very late there. It should be. But they're joining the conversation. Kawesa, I like the comment you just sent in the chat room. And I remember, actually, this is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim, Kayira. And it is your global community conversation where every topic is not out of bounds. It is just how we treat those topics with respect. And you can always, send in your message either on Instagram, on Snapchat, on Facebook, or in the chat room on Zoom where we are at, or on YouTube actually, where we are streaming live at the moment. Ajambi Kawesa in the United States says, people in Uganda, we still have our people in Uganda, for example, who have the audacity to tell us it's my birthday, send me 300K for a cake. I don't miss my words when it comes to such people, and I make it clear I don't have that luxury when there are people who can't afford 5K for a cheap meal to feed an entire family. I think now people back home, especially those of you watching us from back home, I'm sure you'll agree. the kind of luxury and exorbitance that you display sometimes actually defeats logic. You go to Kampala, for example, someone takes you out and burns 200,000 in no time. At the time of going back, he doesn't have transport to go back home, and you have to give them the transport. They've just burnt 200,000. Well, they don't see a bag of cement in all the money, as they say in Uganda at the moment. Thank you very much. Aisha, your hand has been up. The second Aisha now. Please unmute yourself. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, rahmatullahi barakatuh, Sheikh.
Yes.
Thank you for the topic.
You're welcome.
Yes. I think I want to answer the lady who was talking about how to inform the parents.
Mitigate the situation.
Yes, and also have a few submission. I think this is the time where you have to have open conversations with our parents, with our family. Like you said, this is now for those generations that have not seen this happening. I myself, being in UK, sometimes you don't think that such things happen, but they actually, this is something that is now happening that we're living in. So I think back home we have to have a proper conversation. Be open, bazadde bagambe nti omanyi ebintu bwe biti, yes, ebintu bwe biti ne bwe biti, so we have to now rationalize. Kuba kati gwe bw'oba olina z'obawa ate ye n'atandika ozzigaba, aba tafunye message eyo nti actually now you're also struggling. So the most important thing is to having a conversation, true conversation, and then realities here. So that's answering that question. Then coming back to what we can do, I think despite the fact we don't have, despite the fact that some of us don't have the money, we've grown up in a culture of wasting. This is the time where you have to put things in the freezer that you left hanging out on in the fridge. There are certain things that you can chop and store in the freezer. If you've bought a lot, don't waste them, that is gone. You know, chop it, chop the greens. I personally chop the greens if I have a lot, other than saying that they are weathering. Chop them, put them, store them in your freezer. This is the time where you can
your freezer,
say,
Aisha, your freezer instead of your fridge, because
yes, my freezer.
Put it in the fridge and you think
exactly. There are certain things that you can actually put in the freezer. For example, I'll give an example. Like if you have greens, various greens, chop them and put them away in your freezer. You know, other than throwing away that they've gone off. Why do you keep them out? You have a freezer. The freezer does a lot of, store. It can store things up to 3 days. You know, they were talking about expiry dates the other day on a program. There are certain things like yogurt that they will show the best. They always show 2 days. It's best before or expiry date. And people tend to throw things because they've seen it's best before. You can always keep those things to a certain, to a certain time, other than throwing them away.
By calling them best after. By calling them best after instead of best
exactly.
before.
Yes. So there are certain things like bread. Bread can be stored. Milk can be stored in the freezer, other than saying the milk is off. If you have one that is, you've bought 2, maybe jerry cans, put one in the freezer, get it out, frozen is still good. These are things that we have to think now and rationalize. I personally used just to shop, go to Tesco because it's my nearest supermarket. I just found out the other day when I went to buy butter, and I discovered that actually the butter I normally buy in Tesco at £1.50, that is I normally do my cakes. So the butter I buy at £1.50 in Tesco, I've never taken note that when I went Aldi, it was actually 75. So I kept looking, I kept looking and saying, you can now make comparison in the supermarkets, which is allowed.
Haji Abdekawesa in the United States now, this is for you to listen because you've been grabbing bread and rushing. you might just have to start looking now at the prices and
exactly. And that was me. I was just grab and go because it's the nearby supermarket. Now I have to drive to, to Alidi, which is quite, about not far away, but at least I know I'm going to save something.
Yes.
It's now the time to do those comparisons,
now,
compare
Aisha,
and then
about
buy.
the milk. You spoke about the milk being put in the freezer. The experience I've had is when you put the milk in the freezer, when you bring it out, it actually sort of breaks, it becomes watery, and then it loses the essence of the milkiness in it.
How long do you have to keep it there?
Well, I don't know how long. Well, so how long should I keep it there? Because, well, with the big family, I mean, sometimes you don't even need to put it there. But once I've had to put milk, like you get visitors coming in, or you've had the event at home, you've bought extras, and then the milk remains. So you end up putting some of the milk in the freezer. So probably goes for a week. And by the time you get to the milk, actually, the milk has become so water. It's sort of separated itself.
Yes, but do you let it to defrost completely? Because what I normally do, you defrost it completely, leave it out overnight, defrost it completely, and then shake it.
Right.
So that's what I do.
Thank
things
you
like
much.
grains, there are certain things, of course, you can't put in the freezer like the fruits, but there are certain things you can do. So that's another way of rationalizing. That's my submission.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Aisha. Thank you. Barakallah.
Okay,
Abu Afra, I'm trying to get you, Sheikh Musa Sengwe, all the way in Manchester. I'm trying to get you, but it looks like your mic now has gone off. I can't see your audio coming on. Sheikh Musa, Abu Afra, if you can try and sort of reload so that we can have you on voice. But still in Manchester, I think we've got Sheikh Abdul Qadir Kawoya. Sheikh Abdul Qadir, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, Sheikh Abdul Qadir. Yeah, Abdul Qadir Kawoya in Manchester. Oh, while we are at it, why don't we just roll? Because I had trying to gauge to hear your text so far. I've got guests, I mean, all the way in Tanzania, very shy to speak, but I'm sure after listening to the conversation as has been, I might be able to sort of come out. Sheila Makindara, if you're there, greetings and good evening. I'm sure you've been listening in into the conversation, and you would be in a good place to sort of compare both worlds now, seeing the realities back home in terms of wastage and so on. Maybe the lessons that we can carry from conversations like this. Sheila, are you there? Hello, Sheila. Trying to get you to unmute yourself, but it looks like you are still muted. Let me try Rahma. Oh, let me see Bakia. Bakia, are you able to speak tonight? Are you not at work? Are you able to speak? Are you able to unmute yourself, please? Bakia. Okay, it is 40 minutes past 9 o'clock. So we have 20 minutes to the end of the program. If you've just joined us, this is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim, Kayira, and we are live on 75 W Radio. We are also live on YouTube, on Zoom, on Umma Connected, and we are also live on Instagram, where quite a number of people have been joining us. I was hoping that we could get a conversation going there. It looks like they've decided to watch and not very much of comments coming through that. But in the meantime, Isma, if you can have us the clip, the BBC clip, please, just showing the situation as it is. Sheikh Abdul Qadir also says can't talk, but I'm enjoying the conversation. A very interesting topic. Thank you very much. That is from Sheikh Abdul Qadir Kawoya, all the way in Manchester, in the northwest of England. I'm trying to get Abu Afra to be able to come on. Hafsa Bideke, I tried to get to you, and you said your torch is not working, but you are on. It's fine. Abu Afra, if you can try to get your mic on, please, and then we will be able to come to you. Let me just roll. Oh, I saw Aida's hand was up at some point and then just disappeared. Aida, assalamu alaikum. Hello, Aida, are you there? And Isma in the studios, please, if when you're ready with the clip, we'll just get playing the clip and then we can prepare our people to sort of come on. And this is a program, one of the BBC. Wa alaikum salam. Oh, just Ida, 1 second. The man in Kigali might be wanting to disappear. So I think I'd rather allow me just to bring him in quickly. There was a question that was put to him regarding the impact on Air Rwanda following the crisis in Ukraine, whether it has been affected or not. Yes, Shukuru, go ahead, please, and then I'll bring Ida in.
Yeah, thank you, Haji Kassim.
And I know it is late where you are in Kigali, but thank you very much for holding as well.
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to tell you that there is no serious change in terms of prices regarding air tickets for Rwanda. And we hope it remains like this with no serious change. Basically, there is nothing much, but we are worried that once the conflict in Russia and Ukraine continues, things may be worse. But the good thing is that there are no Rwanda air flights to any of those countries.
To Moscow.
Yes, the other flights have continued as normal as we all expected, and basically nothing much. But once of course the flights use fuel also. So once this conflict continues, things may actually become bad, and we pray that this conflict stops and then things somehow go back to normal. We were lucky that COVID had subsided. We thought life would be going back to normal, but then there came in this conflict, which is really affecting us so much. But we hope for the best. I'm always optimistic that in life, there are always some disturbances. We cannot have Jannah on earth. We are always having issues, but inshallah, we shall overcome. As others also keep coming, then we also overcome, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Shukuru. And if you have to leave, we will very much understand. At least you've already given us a picture in Kigali. And this is the beauty of this program, the way we've managed to sort of traverse the world. We've been to Tanzania, we went to Kigali, we were in Gambia, we were in Nigeria, got a general view, and then we went to the US all the way to Texas, and then ended up in Boston. So again, another crossover, trying to get the mood, gauge the mood, and then in the UK as well, sort of trying to spread out. Thank you very much for keeping it calm. Let's talk with Kassim Kayira. And we continue every Tuesday, 8 to 10 p.m. If you can, please join us. It's different topics all the time. The only difference is the fitness that we give them. Thank you very much, Shukuru, for your time. We much appreciate that. All right. Ida, you have the mic now, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, Shay, I'm fine. I'm tired. I just came in the house.
All right.
Yeah.
If it is tiredness that is coming from work, alhamdulillah, that's fine. Being unemployed is a heavy one.
Of course, from work.
Okay, we are talking about the rising cost of living. How has it been your end?
To me, it's the fuel.
Yes.
Petrol is really, because there are some days I have to commute.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hitting me so much, the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the other things, I'm okay.
So for the listeners here, maybe just put it into practice. How much did you use to spend, say, on a full tank?
Because with my car, I don't have a big car, but my car, I used to fill the full tank.
Mm-hmm.
I used to put in, I used to pay 45 pounds, but now the tank to fill, I have to pay 55 pounds.
Yeah. Mine was 48, now it is 62. It's
now it's not even full when I pay 55, but I just say to myself, I'm only stopping on 55. I'm not going beyond that. Doesn't matter.
Yes.
And then I limit myself where to go. Now, if something is not really urgent, we don't need to leave the house. Mm-hmm. And now I've started to say, okay, let's use the bus.
Yes.
So that's the only problem. But other things, they're the same.
Now, Ida, you are lucky because in places like London, where public transport is so flexible, it's so easy, you can afford to actually say you're going to take a bus. Come up north to Newcastle, go to Manchester, go to sort of Derby. You will find that actually in the United States, it's very difficult to actually going to imagine that you're going to depend on public transport. People do drive and drive distances. So here up north, actually, if you don't have a car, after 10 o'clock, traveling, going to rely on a night bus is going to be, very, very difficult. And therefore, you end up having to drive. So driving is not just a luxury here. It's really part of, what is there. Joy Mutesi says knowing when supermarkets reduce prices of food stuff.
Shay, where I live, Shay, where I live, we don't have night buses.
You don't?
No, we don't. The buses run from 6 o'clock to midnight, and that's it. We don't have night buses. Only the people who are living in maybe probably, because I live in Epsom, we don't have night buses.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are outside almost in London.
Yes.
But we have buses, those who are running during the day. And then Sunday is a problem. Only just 2 buses.
Yes. If you miss that,
that's it. Yeah. So,
so one of the areas where you've seen real changes in the fuel consumption and fuel expenditure. So you've set a budget. You used to do £45 and
yes,
you'd feel fine. Now that you've gone 55, that's £10 more. £10 that has to come from somewhere. Has your salary increased at all during that period?
No, that's actually the amount of the work we are doing now in the hospital. Oh, goodness me, because people are quitting. People are trying, to find other means.
Yeah.
So it's hard, to me, it's the fuel. And I feel like, if I leave the other job, the one I have to commute, it's helping me. So I say, oh, well, let me just go. I know I have to top up £10. But it's helping because the other job I have to do is in central London.
Yes.
Richmond. So I have to drive there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the only problem. But if it's not
in
fuel,
terms of food, because some people were mentioning about cutting out swimming for the kids, and have you had to cut out any activities now?
Swimming, my kids, they've already finished. They've reached their stages. They've completed all the stages. And that's the first thing I did when they were young. By the age of 8, they've finished everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's the swimming of luxury.
Oh no, we don't do that. We do luxury. we can go to the park.
Yeah.
We can go to the park. We can walk. It's the good thing living outside London. We have lots of stuff. You can see.
Lots of
I
spaces.
live nearby Oberdown. So we can go around. There are so many sceneries. You don't need to go to swimming pool. It's all right. Maybe on holiday.
But you can just go to the woods and sweat out and you're fine.
Exactly. Even you don't need even, I've cut out the gym. I do gym in the house. I can, there's so many things on the TV,
Yes.
You have to find means,
So you just lock the curtain, you just shut the curtains, make sure the neighbors are not watching, and then throw your hijab away and start jumping around.
Alhamdulillah, where I live, people are not noisy. We don't have flats, those big flats. I have my own, fenced, I have a garden and it's fenced. The house is fenced. So nobody's going to look at you. Even if I leave the curtains open, no one will see.
No, I was just trying to paint a picture of the privacy that you need to be able to exercise.
Yes, I know that. No. Alhamdulillah, I'm not complaining. But and another thing I think is the council tax. We are the people who are paying the highest. I live in a 3-bedroom house, but I pay £200 council tax.
Yeah.
And a single person.
Yes.
So that's another thing which is hitting me so much. I'm not complaining. Alhamdulillah, there are other people who are, worse than me.
You can as well complain. I mean, don't feel shy to complain. If you raise it as a concern, it is definitely a concern. It is £200 that would have gone into something else that you have to spend on that.
Exactly.
But it is what it is. And Joy Mutesi, I'll be coming to you later on. I see a hand from Abdul Karim Mugabi Chitunzi. And Joy Mutes is suggesting here, knowing when supermarkets reduce prices of foodstuffs that are about to expire can also save you some coins. Yes, actually, the advice sometimes is when you go to supermarkets, don't go in these open hours. Go as close to closing time as possible. So if a supermarket normally they close 10 p.m., if you're there by 9:30, 9:45, the likelihood that you will find lots of goods that have been brought from the shelves and brought closer to the checkout just to make sure they can be bought. And many people who are clever will go to supermarkets around that time. And I think it was Aisha who was suggesting that you can actually keep bread for longer. Many breads will be having like 2 days left or 3 days left on the best before dates. And you just buy those breads, especially if you have a big family. Take them, store them in the fridge, like put them in the fridge, and they'll be able to last that much. It's about being creative now, finding those beautiful ways where you can actually play around the system and save some money. Every little helps, as they say. And DHM was saying, coming straight out of lockdowns has given us alternatives to indoor recreation. I think that was following up on Haida now. Having seen with lockdown, you find all the excuses. Where would have had a lot of explaining to do now, we just have very few lockdowns actually. God has ways that He brings situations. Who would have known that minus COVID-19, probably the Zooms would not have gotten this popular the way they became. 8 minutes to the end of the program. And Abdul Karim Mugabe, your hand is up. Fire away, please. Abdul Karim, you have the mic.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Good evening. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. You are in London, I assume?
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Your point, please.
Yeah. Just a focus on automobiles and energy industry. It's really tight. I was talking to one of my friends is in Azerbaijan, and he's into in the energy industry, and because they have old contracts with Russia.
Oh yes.
Much as the supply is challenged because of the war, but he was telling me as soon as the fourth quarter comes in, then they won't be having new contracts with Russia, especially with Gazprom. And he was saying it's the same situation which we are bound to face, we who are in Europe. There won't be so much of the supply of gas. And you've already heard from the news that gas may increase up to 54%. And that's true. It's not coming, but as long as the old contracts from Russia cease, then we'll feel the impact, and it's gonna be worse.
Yes.
Because I was looking at the cost of a barrel, it's costing $110, yet it was around $60.
Go to 87 at the worst point, yes. So at 110, you can imagine what that means, yes.
Yeah. And here they wanted to get their own gas and oil from shale gas, but because it wasn't economical, and because of the environmental effects and other terms, they had to let it off. But now, because it's more economical, that's why you see those who are in America, they are not affected by Russia's invasion to Ukraine. So again, if you look at, they are trying to they've introduced EURES, and they are confining customers to electric cars. In a marketing perspective, you may think it's more cheaper to run because you just plug in and go. But when you look at the cost of refilling the battery, in the long run, is more costly.
No, actually, but now the EU, for those who have just joined us, probably, the EU has authorized countries. They had wanted to give, 6 months. Within 6 months, they wanted to get rid of all the Russian gas and oil, and they were saying they were not willing to pay in rubles. But now it looks like finally they have gotten to their knees, because when it came to voting, some countries were against that. And so they've authorized countries to sort of pay in rubles. And that was quite a change of goalposts. But as you say, many contracts will be running out in October. That's when actually many contracts are either signed in April or October. And October, because that's the time that the winter season starts. So many of the gas contracts were sort of set to run around that. And that would have been, that would have given us the impetus for that. But many countries are now worried. Come October, come November, with the bills looking the way they look now, it might actually be a very difficult one for us to sort of contend with. Abdul Karim Mugabe, thank you very much. I'm only stopping so that I can bring in someone more as well, just as we wrap up. We've only got 3 minutes to the end of the show, and we want to make sure we get as many voices as possible. For those who have joined us, thank you very much. I mean, it's been very, very enlightening as a program. Abu Afra, you are in Manchester. We haven't heard from anyone in Manchester. Sheikh Abdul Qadir just sent a message. Oh, you're saying you are a bit busy at the moment, but next time, inshallah. Okay, fantastic. No problem. We were hoping that we could get a chance to hear from you. I can see Ismail Mugisha. Mr. Mugisha, are you there? Are you able to throw in a word before we get to the end? As a businessman, how have you been affected by the global prices now, the changing cost of living for many?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thanks for joining us.
Mine, I had a trip to Geneva last weekend, and normally when I go to Europe, I tend to buy fuel in Europe because it tended to be cheaper.
Yes.
But surprisingly, this time round, I bought fuel at €2.69. And before it was not even getting to €2. So I bought fuel more expensive in Europe than I used to buy.
Mm.
So
when you say Europe, is that in Geneva then? Because
no.
Right.
Just in France, because France is
expensive city after Tokyo.
So no. I'm talking of France.
Right, in France. Okay.
So
yes.
I ended up paying more, thinking that I was going to save, but I ended up paying more in Europe. So things are really bad. And now mine, that kind of spender who, when I go, maybe they tell me, oh, there's something, can you pass by? We have a waitress near our place. We go and maybe there's no milk. When you're coming from work, get some milk and what? Yeah. I'm that person who, when I go, I'll almost buy a whole trolley. Mm. I'm not that disciplined. But from when this crisis started, I've been banned. Mm-hmm. They told me no more. They're not. I've been told that I'm not going to be going to those shops anymore because I've been spending so.
When you say you've been banned, is that from Madame? That is Madame now.
Madame and the kids.
Yeah. Oh, Madame and the kids. They are taking charge of the expenditure.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's the impact that it's even getting to even the little ones. Yes. They're just beginning to notice that things are not as they used to be. Mm-hmm. But when they say it, you don't know. But surely, when you go shopping, for example, you go in a supermarket, you go with money. You think you just come with a basket when you used to fill a whole trolley. Mm-hmm. So things are not as they used to be. We have to find ways of, as these ideas of freezing things and what we have to start freezing things this time, we have to freeze them. And again, the other thing is, let's try to not say with this business of you go and start to measure things. You see the people that we live with, the Bazungus, measure things and think. Like I did tell you one time of a story when my first Christmas in the UK, somebody invited me. A Mzungu asked me, how many potatoes do you eat? I'm telling you, that was a question that I didn't know even what to say. Imagine somebody is asking you, calling you for a meal and asking, how many potatoes do you eat? Yeah. Then I just fumbled and said 3. And indeed, a big bowl, there are 6 potatoes. My 3 potatoes and the 3 potatoes. And those small potatoes. Mm-hmm. So these people know their way. We should start going that way these days now.
for some of us, it's really difficult. The level of wastage, if you think about it, and that's where probably we need crisis. We need a crisis, because when you get into a crisis, it pushes you into thinking, and you start considering things that you didn't consider. But Ismail, coming from a country like you've lived in a country like Rwanda, and Rwanda, everything is on a weighing scale. I mean, everything is kumunzani. You know, there will be the potatoes, there will be the beans. Everything is on the minzani, as opposed to Uganda, where people just lay things about, and the aspect of measuring really never stands out. That shouldn't have been a surprise. Or you didn't. Oh, it's about the size of the potatoes.
It's the size of the potatoes.
Yes.
And there's no single day had ever been asked, how many potatoes do you eat?
Yes.
So that's something that really we have to start thinking. And again, there's the issue of, well, we have to help our people in Africa. That I'm not disputing, but we have to also start thinking, because somebody tells you they want, for example, just giving an example, he wants 100,000 francs.
Mm-hmm.
That person has only invested in a missed call.
Yes.
They missed call you, you call them back at your own expense. They want 100,000 francs, which is about 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, this person wants, their needs are about 30,000. But because they know you're in the UK or you're in America, everywhere, they tend to put the bar up.
Mm-hmm.
For you, the mistakes that we make, you go, instead of giving him that exact 100,000, those change that exchange rate that goes through, it's about 118 or something, you give him the 118. Next time this person, you will say, oh, this person has money. Next time he'll ask you 150. So it keeps on going. Now this time around, if they ask you 100,000, please make sure that you give them 70. That's what I'm doing now. Except my mother, I know her needs, I'll fulfill her needs. But these other people that come, my brother here and there, no, it's hard times to demand hard decisions.
Yes. Fantastic.
That's so I want to love that.
And that's what a very nice point actually to sort of end tonight's conversation. I can only thank you very much for those who joined us from the Gambia, from Nigeria, from Tanzania, from Rwanda, from Somalia. We had actually a person in Mogadishu who was following the conversation and was also sending us messages on Facebook from Mogadishu. Thank you very much. Sheila Makindara, you actually got shy to speak, but all the way from Tanzania, and thank you very much for staying for the entire conversation to the very end. If you've just missed this program, remember, you can just catch up. Just go to YouTube, look for Umma Connected, and then just find Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira, and you can catch up on that. We'll just get a link, or go to Facebook on my Facebook page. I'll just flag that, or just look for our Facebook page, 75W Radio. You can just look for 75W Radio on Facebook. Just look for Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira. We are back next week on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Same time. This is where we'll be coming with another very interesting topic. Please do not miss. Thank you very much for making the time. Inshallah, hope to see you next week, where again we will continue having our global community conversation regarding a few things that are happening around us. Next week, we might actually be talking about a very interesting topic that is making the rounds in Europe, very, very rarely spoken or understood in Africa. That is narcissism. You might not know about it, but let's find out. Inshallah, in case there is nothing that is burning more that comes to replace that, we shall be looking at that next week. And there is too much into that. In the studios, Isma, thank you very much for handling the Viuma very well. For all of you, Hasfa, on the Zoom side of things, thank you very, very much. Hope to see you next week all. Murara Harjana, have a very good night. Fi amanillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kassim.